This is One on One. There he is, Christian McBride, three-time Grammy Award winner, bassist, composer, arranger, educator, all-around great guy. How you doing?
Doing well, thanks.
Thank you for honoring us one-on-one here at NJPAC. You like this place, NJPAC, right?
I do.
You're connected here, aren't you?
Quite.
Explain it.
Well, John Schreiber, who was the CEO of NJPAC,
Just talk to him. Good guy.
Oh, he's a wonderful, wonderful man. I've known him since I was 14 years old. When he was working for Festival Productions in the 1980s. And he hired me as NJPAC's jazz advisor. And I'm also the artistic director of the Moody Jazz Festival.
Yeah, James Moody.
And so I get to do a lot of great things around here.
Where did your love for jazz come from? When did it happen?
It comes from my family. I come from a family of musicians and people in the music industry. My father, Lee Smith, is a bass player. My great uncle, Howard Cooper, is also a bass player. My uncle, Tony McBride, he was a promotions man at WHAT Radio in Philadelphia. And basically, I grew up listening to all of this great music all across the board: jazz, rhythm and blues, gospel, classical music. And between my mother and all of my uncles, I went to a lot of live shows growing up. And of course, Philadelphia is such a great city with such a rich history of musicians. One day, my great uncle, my Uncle Howard, he gave me a stack of records to listen to. And the record that really changed my life was Charlie Parker and Dizzy Gillespie. It was called Jazz at Massey Hall.
Jazz at?
Massey Hall.
What was it about it?
Because when I heard this record, it was 1983, and that record was recorded in 1953. And I just remember thinking, well, the energy is still just as palpable as, like, say, a Michael Jackson record, you know, because you could hear Dizzy Gillespie, who was like one of the greatest personalities that jazz has ever had. Not only was his music very serious, but when you saw him perform, he was such a showman. He was always having such a good time on stage. You would almost take for granted this serious stuff that he was putting down. So the joy, the passion, the energy that came from that recording, that really made me fall in love with jazz.
Now, I just said to you, you know, it's an opportunity for us to feature here at NJPAC some of the great performers here, some of the music that people don't get to hear an awful lot. But I said, let's talk about your new CD. And it's like, there are two CDs out at the same time. I said, there's Music People, right?
People Music.
Excuse me, People Music, yeah. Christian McBride and Inside Straight. But there's also Out There.
Here.
I'll get this right. Out Here. This happened just about at the same time. So yeah. Out Here and People Music happened just about at the same time?
Yeah, I actually recorded both CDs roughly at the same time. As a matter of fact, when I was recording the trio CD Out Here, I called the guys from Inside Straight. I said, hey, we got like a 2-hour window. Come in and knock out a couple of tracks.
And Inside Straight?
Yeah, with the guys with Inside Straight. The guys who were in the trio, Christian Sands and Ulysses Owens, they also played on a couple of tracks on the Inside Straight CD.
So let me get this straight, if I could, about Inside Straight.
I think I know where you're going.
Is there a small group of musicians who you wind up having very close relationships with and work on and collaborate in a lot of different ways?
Oh, yeah, absolutely. Well, you know, there's a joke that jazz, like the entire genre, is actually just one big band with all interchangeable parts.
Is that true?
There's no exclusivity in jazz. There's not enough musicians to make that happen. You know, I mean, or I should say maybe the demand is not such where you can have exclusivity.
Whoa, what do you mean the demand? If someone were to say, because today at NJPAC we're taping a lot of different shows in one day, and many of those folks that we're talking to, many of the folks we're talking to are connected to jazz. And you got the James Moody Festival here at NJPAC. But jazz is not, would you say it's mainstream?
Mainstream in the sense that it's part of American pop culture?
Yes.
No.
Is it important that it becomes that to you?
I wonder about that sometimes. I'm not sure if I would ever want it. I think if jazz became part of American pop culture, it would be compromised, or it could be in danger of being compromised, because one of the joys of playing jazz is that it's strictly driven by the art. Whereas a lot of things in American pop culture is not driven by the art. It's
How
driven
dare
by,
you?
It's driven by the commerce.
How dare you say that?
Because you know I'm right.
How dare, talking to us in broadcasting, how dare you say such a so that's a delicate.
Yeah, I don't know if I would want, like, the TMZ film crew following us around at the Village Vanguard. You know what I mean?
You're a purist on some level.
On some level.
Because you got to pay bills.
Hello.
And how do you? So okay, you got the 2 CDs out at the same time. So here's my question: how challenging is it to get it out to the market, and who is that market for Christian McBride?
Well, certainly. Well, if you're asking me personally, I think I have managed to build up a following of people in all kinds of different musical worlds because of my associations with people like Sting and Queen Latifah and the Roots and James Brown, but also I have my hardcore jazz followers. And I'm a firm believer in doing exactly what it is that you love. If you do what you love, the people will come to you. You will find out who really is digging what you do, and then they will follow you.
You know, it's interesting. You talk about the connection with Sting and Queen Latifah and others, James Brown. You really do. While you're a jazz aficionado on some level, clearly, obviously, you have moved into other musical genres. Someone like Sting, that some of us just have loved for a long time, did he get you right away? Did he understand you right away?
I think so. Sting is such a serious musician. Again, he's one of these people who he's purely driven, at least I believe he's always been purely driven by music. I mean, he certainly understands the business of music.
He understands a little bit about commerce, wouldn't you say?
Oh, yeah, absolutely. But he never lets that become the dominant force in what he does musically. And he's always calling great musicians to come and work with him. I've always admired that about him. He's not afraid to call musicians who are going to challenge him, and that's rare in someone who's extremely famous like that, So, and not to mention, we both play the same instrument. So when I first got the call from him, I was actually pretty surprised. I say he's calling a bass player to play bass for his band in which he plays bass. Wow, this is interesting.
What was that like?
It was fantastic. He's a wonderful person to be around. I've worked with him on and off now for about the last 12 years. I've recorded 2 CDs with him, and he's on my CD that came out before Out Here.
Before People Music.
Yeah, it was called Conversations with Christian. And Sting is on that. So he's a wonderful musician and a wonderful person.
Give me 30 seconds on Queen Latifah from right here in Newark, Brick City.
Oh my gosh, she is like the coolest person in the world, and she's uber talented, and somebody that talented, it's hard to believe she's as wonderful and sweet and as cool as she is. I loved working with her.
Give me something on Jazz House Kids, because being in Montclair, being neighbors in Montclair,
yes.
While it comes out of there, it has a great impact well beyond the town.
Yeah. Well, it was so wonderful. You interviewed my wife, who's the founder of Jazz House Kids,
Terrific.
Melissa Walker, and what she's been able to do. See, I feel bad taking any sort of credit whatsoever because she really has done such a wonderful job with Jazz House Kids. I mean, she lives and breathes Jazz House Kids. She had that going when we first met, a decade, 10 years ago. And I think what the organization is doing for these fantastic young musicians in the area is so inspiring. And we need an organization like Jazz House Kids because public schools used to have music programs where we didn't need an organization like Jazz House Kids.
Now we need Jazz House
Now we need
Kids.
it. Yep.
Hey, you going to be performing for us?
Yes.
What are you going to be doing?
I think I'm going to play an original composition of mine I wrote for my dear friend. His name is Ron Blake, great saxophonist, and the name of the song is Shakin' Blake.
Shakin' Blake. Do you mind one more time if I plug the CDs and get it right this time?
Do I mind?
People Music.
People Music.
Christian McBride and Inside Straight. Those are your partners, right? And also Out Here, as opposed to Out There, because you are right here in the house at NJ Pack. Christian, it is an honor to have you with us.
It's such a pleasure to be here with you, Steve.
Ready to play some music?
Yes.
Let's
I'm ready.
do it.
Let's do it.
Okay.
One-on-One with Steve Adubato at NJPAC has been a production of the Caucus Educational Corporation, celebrating 25 years of broadcast excellence, and by the New Jersey Performing Arts Center, in cooperation with NJTV and 134WNET. Funding for this edition of One-on-One at NJPAC with Steve Adubato has been provided by the law firm of Gibbons PC, Barnabas Health, TD Bank, Verizon Communications, New Jersey Manufacturers Insurance Group, Josh S. Weston, and by NJ Best, New Jersey's 529 College Savings Plan. Promotional support provided by the Star Ledger and NJ.com. Transportation provided by Airbrook Limousine, serving the metropolitan New York, New Jersey area.